Let's talk about cars, not just any cars, but the ones that are changing the way we think about transportation and the future of our planet. Specifically, the sleek electric vehicles designed to save the environment, cut emissions, and look impressive in your driveway. Symbols of progress and innovation. Hyundai, the South Korean automotive giant, was gearing up to build a $7.6 billion EV battery plant in Elabel, Georgia. This was more than just a factory. It was the state's largest economic project ever, promising thousands of new jobs and a boost to the local economy. But in the early hours of September 4, 2025, that promise was shattered. The construction site was suddenly lit up by the flashing lights of a massive federal raid, catching everyone off guard. Federal agents stormed the site in what would become the largest single-site immigration enforcement operation in Homeland Security's history, sending shockwaves through the Munith Bayan Dan, endured the community Babaitam. San Bridier Tram, and Daberdat San Dagat, not criminals, but the very people responsible for building this symbol of American industrial resurgence, skilled workers, engineers, and supervisors. Amid the chaos and confusion, 475 workers were arrested on the spot, including 317 South Korean specialists and engineers, many of whom had traveled thousands of miles to help launch this ambitious project. Supervisors sent by Hyundai were also among those detained, their expertise suddenly sidelined by the unfolding crisis. Most were accused of overstaying visas, a technicality, but one with enormous diplomatic and economic consequences for both the US and South Korea. This wasn't just another immigration bust. It was a direct hit on a flagship project of President Trump's economic agenda, threatening his vision for American manufacturing. The raid exposed a dramatic collision between two pillars of policy: aggressive immigration enforcement on one side, and the drive to revitalize American manufacturing through foreign investment and international cooperation on the other. The result? A public relations disaster and a legal quagmire that sent shockwaves through Georgia, the auto industry, and diplomatic circles around the world. News of the raid hit Seoul like a thunderclap, reverberating through the city and causing immediate shockwaves. South Korea, a key US ally, was furious. Its experts, sent to build America's future, were rounded up like criminals. The images of engineers in handcuffs were broadcasted repeatedly, igniting a firestorm of anger and disbelief. Reports of humiliating conditions fueled outrage, and the South Korean government demanded answers. The public outcry was immediate, with protests erupting and officials scrambling to address the growing crisis. The Trump administration scrambled for damage control, sending Deputy Secretary of State Christopher Landau to offer a carefully worded apology. It wasn't enough. The apology was seen as too little, too late, and did little to quell the anger. Most detained South Koreans chose to leave, leaving a gaping hole in the project's expertise. The departure of these professionals created an immediate and significant setback for the project. Then, in a surreal twist, President Trump admitted on Truth Social that the raid was a mistake, publicly contradicting his own administration. This admission added another layer of confusion and embarrassment. The incident exposed a deep schism in the America First philosophy. How can you court foreign investment while cracking down on the very people making it possible? The contradiction was glaring and troubling. The diplomatic damage was done, and global investors began to question America's reliability. The uncertainty led to a noticeable dip in investor confidence. The president's online oops couldn't undo the harm. The damage was already extensive, and the repercussions were being felt across multiple sectors. The genie was out of the bottle, and there was no way to put it back. The incident had set off a chain reaction that would be difficult, if not impossible, to reverse. The Hyundai raid detonated fragile US-South Korea trade talks, sending shockwaves through both nations' economies. At stake, a $350 billion South Korean investment in American manufacturing, a deal that promised to create thousands of jobs and boost local economies. In exchange for lower US tariffs, which would make South Korean products more competitive in the American market. South Korea's President Lee Jae-myung warned that such a massive outflow could destabilize his country's economy, potentially leading to a financial crisis, demanding a U.S. currency swap as insurance, a safety net to protect against economic volatility. The U.S. refused, insisting South Korea take the risk, pointing to Japan as precedent, where similar deals had been made without such guarantees. Negotiations deadlocked. America wanted the money, but also control over every dollar spent, ensuring it aligned with their strategic interests. South Korea balked, insisting investments be commercially viable, not political pet projects that could waste resources. They argued that the investments should focus on innovation and efficiency to ensure long-term success. The US saw this as defiance, a challenge to their authority and economic strategy. South Korea saw it as common sense, a necessary step to protect their national interests. The result? Talks stalled, trust eroded, and both sides left with a sense of betrayal. The dream of a $350 billion investment faded, leaving behind a trail of missed opportunities and economic uncertainty. The Hyundai raid became a symbol of a deal unraveling, a stark reminder of what could have been. Instead of partnership, both sides dug in, unwilling to compromise. The standoff left the future of American manufacturing, and the Georgia plant, in limbo, with workers and communities left in uncertainty. The opportunity was slipping away, a potential economic boon lost to political gridlock. The Hyundai saga reveals the core contradiction of the Trump economic agenda, the America First paradox. The administration wanted to bring factories and jobs back to the U.S., requiring foreign investment, but at the same time it imposed tariffs that raised construction costs and enforced strict immigration policies that kept out the very experts needed to build. The Georgia raid was the ultimate expression of this paradox, inviting billions in investment, then arresting the people making it happen. Economists warned these policies were self-sabotaging, raising costs, creating labor shortages, and scaring off investors. Instead of synergy, the administration's goals canceled each other out. The ambition was to build, but the methods were tearing down the foundation before it was finished. The result? A strategy at war with itself. The chaos at Hyundai's plant was just the tip of the iceberg. Across the U.S., rising material costs, policy uncertainty, and labor shortages were crippling construction. Trump's tariffs on steel and aluminum drove up prices, adding millions in costs to projects like Hyundai's. A 2025 survey showed 40% of contractors faced delays or cancellations due to spiraling costs. The very policies meant to boost American industry were making it harder to build anything. Unpredictable trade and immigration moves made long-term planning impossible. Businesses hesitated, projects stalled, and the dream of a manufacturing boom faded. The ripple effect was clear. Construction sites became zones of frustration, not growth. The foundation of the America First strategy was cracking. The industry was flashing red. Beyond costs and diplomacy, the biggest crisis was a severe labor shortage. In 2025, 92% of U.S. construction firms struggled to find skilled workers. The industry relies on foreign-born labor, 43% in Georgia, 52% in California. The Hyundai raid sent shockwaves, making workers across the country afraid to show up. Crews vanished overnight, projects stalled, and costs soared. The crackdown deepened the labor gap, undermining the very projects the administration championed. The government was, in effect, sabotaging its own goals, building walls while tearing down the workforce. The result: half-finished sites and a construction industry in crisis. The labor gap was policy-made and growing. Hyundai tried to project calm, reaffirming its $26 billion U.S. investment pledge. Publicly, the company promised jobs and compliance with U.S. laws. Privately, the raid and diplomatic fallout shattered trust and upended plans. Losing 317 technical experts threw the Georgia project into chaos. The risk of investing in the U.S. had skyrocketed. Hyundai's boardrooms were filled with doubt. Every assumption behind the project was now in question. The company was caught between public promises and harsh new realities. Continuing meant navigating a minefield of risk. Backing out would damage its reputation. The half-built Georgia plant became a symbol of uncertainty. The real question: would America let Hyundai build at all? Hyundai's Georgia troubles are more than a corporate setback, they're a warning. The administration's conflicting goals, welcoming investment while punishing it, created chaos. The message to global business: bring your money, but expect higher costs, deported experts, and shifting rules. The fallout extends beyond Hyundai. Other companies are watching and hesitating. The unraveling deal threatens to chill foreign investment and derail the American manufacturing renaissance. The half-finished plant stands as a monument to a failed strategy. Populist rhetoric collided with economic reality and lost. The goal was to build America up, but the policies are tearing it down.